I want you to take a moment and think about your biggest fear. What comes to mind? Heights, germs, your physics teacher, fire, maybe? Well, to me today, none of that is scary. Although physical fears can be daunting, I'm not afraid of fire. The only thing that I'm afraid of is silence. Every year near the beginning of spring marks Charshanbe Suri, a part of Persian New Year. During this holiday, unlike your traditional one of sitting by the fireplace and opening gifts, my family and I jump over fire. During Charshanbe Suri, Persian people launch fireworks, play loud music, and most importantly, jump over fire. This loud symbolism is meant to ward away evil spirits and cleanse us for the new year, but as I got older, all it started to do was make me feel embarrassed. Were we waking up the neighbors? Can they see the blazing fire through their windows? Which do you think was louder, the JBL speaker on full volume or my family? Definitely, my family. Embarrassment flowed through me in this moment, just as any other time that I felt ostracized, especially by my culture. Mispronouncing Muhammad as Muhammad earned me confused looks from my peers in middle school. Neighboring tables at restaurants exchange irritated glances as my mom and her sister stand bickering for the check, something that my family would call taruf. This embarrassment eventually snowballed and turned into a fear. A fear of taking up space, a fear of inconveniencing others, a fear of being loud. But it wasn't the volume of which that I was afraid of. It was the way in which other people would perceive me if I'd acted a certain way. And as I got older, I began to realize that so many of us have been conditioned to act a certain way in order to try and fit in. There are many theories as to why I and so many other people do this, but a widely regarded one is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a psychological theory that says that there are 5 categories of human need that dictate our behavior. The first 2 levels are the physiological needs, the first one being the most basic: food, water, warmth, and rest. Best explained by Maslow himself, one who hungers for food, water, to raise their esteem and to self-actualize, will hunger for food and water more than anything else. The second level are the safety needs, security and safety. We value things like religion and a stable government because they offer us a sense of security that can't be tainted. Then, once we move from the physiological needs, we transition into the third and fourth levels, the psychological needs. The third level consists of 2 things, belonging and love, which can be found through things like relationships, friendships, and family. And the fourth level, the esteem needs, can be found through things like accomplishments, achievements, and overall just other things that would lead to a heightened sense of self-esteem. Then, once all these needs are met, we can transition into the 5th and final level, self-actualization, the desire to achieve one's fullest potential. Although Maslow himself believed that not very many people could achieve self-actualization, achieving your full potential is subjective. Remember that. With this being said, for many of us, including myself, the physiological needs of the first and second levels aren't things that we've had to worry about. For me, food, water, warmth, rest, security, and safety aren't things that I've ever had to work towards, but rather things that I've been provided with, allowing me to transition up my pyramid rather easily. The third level consists of 2 things, belonging and love. Through my family, I was born into love and surrounded by much affection, but belonging wasn't something that came to me as easily. Majority of you are probably in some sort of an extracurricular or activity. Consider why you're in this extracurricular. Are you doing it because you genuinely want to, or because that's what everybody else is doing? Well, a few years ago, I was faced with this very same question. Going to middle school, instead of signing me up for choir, like I asked, and like the majority of my grade, my dad went against my wishes and signed me up for theater. Mortifying, I know, but despite my initial reluctance and beyond subpar singing and acting skills, during the time that I was a part of the program, I learned to take pride in my voice. I thought that joining choir would help me fit in, but it wasn't about real belonging. It was just me trying to check boxes to earn approval. Now, as I slowly but surely started to be comfortable in my loudness, I started to take chances on more things that I would have deemed as irregular. I continued with theater for 4 years, after I was initially signed up. I tried out for tennis instead of volleyball like the majority of my peers in middle school. Outside of the extracurriculars, being loud can influence every aspect of a person's life, especially relationships. How many times have you been in a class or a meeting and a teacher or boss has asked you a question? And even though you felt fairly confident that you knew the answer, you didn't raise your hand because nobody else did. Well, instead of leaving my teacher's questions unanswered, I began to raise my hand. Whether or not I was confident in my answer is beyond me, but through my successes and many, many failures, I learned a lot, and I've even formed bonds with the very same teachers that I thought would have been bothered by my participation. Outside of the academic relationships, I've formed best friendships with people who I would have never known if I hadn't put myself out there. By being myself, I was offered a genuine sense of belonging in places that I would have never looked to belong before. And so, I was able to move to the 4th level of my pyramid. Before finding belonging, self-esteem was most definitely something I lacked. I sought belonging in insincere places in an attempt to raise my esteem, but artificiality would never allow me, you, or anyone else to truly fulfill the criteria of Maslow's hierarchy. Now, as I began to take chances on these irregular activities, I ended up earning praise for my efforts. I received medals for my acting at both zone and district of my middle school's UIL play, of which I was a lead-in. Going into high school, I tried out for tennis, and despite my 1.5 year of experience, I ended up making varsity my freshman year. As I kept asking and answering questions, I started to be right more often than not. The friends I made by being myself laugh at my jokes, don't think I'm too much or embarrassing, and in fact encourage me to take risks, like the one I'm taking right now, delivering this talk. With that being said though, esteem isn't built through tangible objects, other people, or achievements, although shiny medals, best friendships, and triumphant matches are rewarding. It's built from within, by recognizing your own worth and capabilities within yourself, regardless of the opinions of others. For me, this meant leaning into the parts of myself that I tended to shy away from before. And now, if you were to ask any of the people close to me to describe me in one word, odds are they'll say something along the lines of talkative, outgoing, and especially loud. And even though that wasn't always the case, I'm no longer embarrassed of the authentic version of myself anymore. But, as I found belonging, not only was I offered a genuine sense of belonging, but also a heightened level of self-esteem that can only be found by embracing my true character. And so, my pyramid stands where it does today. Although my journey ascending up my pyramid was able to begin at the psychological levels, not everybody has the same privileges or opportunities. I know I mentioned earlier that self-actualization is subjective, but getting into an Ivy League institution like Harvard University is widely considered to be a form of self-actualization. In this instance, let's say it is. Well, according to the New York Times, 67% of attending students at Harvard have a median family income in the top 20%. Conversely, a staggering 4.5% of attending students have a median family income in the bottom 20%. This statistic isn't just a staggering difference of numbers, but a story of systematic inequality in the form of a pie chart. How can one be concerned with self-actualizing when they more than likely have a multitude of other things to be concerned with? Well, a lack of physiological needs doesn't mean that your fate is set in stone. In fact, remaining resilient in pursuit of passions, goals, dreams, and desires is the heart of Maslow's hierarchy. Like 2013 Harvard graduate Khadija Williams, who survived a lifetime of homelessness, or the very same billionaire who spoke at her graduation, Oprah Winfrey, who survived the childhood of abuse. Your struggles and how other people perceive them don't define you. What matters most is staying true to who you are and what you believe you're capable of. Now, I want you to take a moment and think. Not about your biggest fears anymore, forget those, but about the things that keep you quiet. Whatever they might be, they're the chains holding you back. For me, my chains were my fear of being too loud and trying too hard to be like other people. But this could mean anything to anyone. And now, I've even seen how, as I've been more true to myself, other people around me have been more authentically who they are, as I've been more true. Every person in this audience is capable of making change and facilitating an environment for others to do the same. But the first step to do so is to speak up, make noise, do things that might be loud or embarrassing, and find the people who love that version of yourself. After all, you're the architect of your own pyramid. I'm no longer afraid of taking up space. I'm no longer afraid of inconveniencing others. I'm no longer afraid of being loud. Although I wouldn't say that I've completed self-actualization, I can say I found my voice. The only thing that I'm afraid of is the thing that held me back from unlocking my inner potential, my unrealized self-actualization. The only thing that I'm afraid of is silence. Thank you. Perfect.